Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady. And in this episode, you'll see a ridiculous story about a Subway guy, then a story about a guy who scared an entire supermarket of employees, and our third story about a Karen who claimed she knew the boss. I don't work for your company, sir. This is a story about a poor choice in clothing which happened some years ago. Back then, my city's Subway employee's uniform had just changed to khaki pants and a blue striped shirt with the company logo embroidered on both the pants and the shirt pocket. Now, I'm a huge train nerd, and that day I decided to leave my car at home so I could take some night train pics after work, wearing the exact same style of clothing, completely unaware of the recent change. At least 3 IDWHL incidents happened to me that day. People asking for directions, which I could provide, but the one that stands out the most was when a train driver mistook me for a station worker. There I was, on the platform, taking some pictures of a train which had just arrived, when the train driver opened the cab door and asked me, happily, if my shift had ended. That struck me as odd, but I said, yes. Anyway, since I was just out of work, I was friends with a few train drivers and chatted once with some others, so I figured the guy knew me from somewhere. He then asked me, as jolly as before, if I wanted to ride with him in the cab. Being a huge train nerd, an offer like that amounts to asking if I won a winning lottery ticket. I didn't even think about the implications, and especially that it could get him fired and myself fined. I just entered the cab and we started chatting about trivial stuff. This was the first time something like this had happened to me, so I took a lot of pictures of the cab and whatnot. A few stations later, the following conversation ensued. TD is train driver, M is me. TD, so how is Toupee? Me, I'm sorry? TD, the station I was taking pictures of, master's name? Everyone used to call him Toupee. Me, who? TD, you know, the station master. Me, I don't know him. TD, how come? Do you work at another station then? Me, I don't work here. TD, haha, nice one, kid. Me, no, I'm serious, I don't work for the Subway. TD, yeah, right, then why are you wearing our uniform? Me, I'm not. See, no logo. Awkward silence. TD, in utter disbelief. So why did you accept to enter? Me, because you offered. We started laughing about how ridiculous the situation was. He politely asked me to leave and never show those pictures to anybody, and I complied. A few days later, he friended me on Orkut. Turns out he was indeed a friend of a friend, and we've been friends for nearly 8 years now. Perfection. Sometimes the obvious answer is the best answer. And our second story. The day I scared an entire supermarket of workers. So this was several years ago, but reading the other submissions here reminded me of it. At the time, I worked for a large grocery chain in Australia. The uniform then was tailored, black bottoms, skirt or trousers, and a pressed white shirt. I was headed to the state corporate office for a day-long training session, so I made sure I was wearing my best. I knew I would be given a bucket load of papers during the day, so I had switched a few basic personal items into a briefcase for ease of transport. On the way, I realized I'd neglected to pack a notebook, so I called into a large grocery store chain's main competitor to buy one. It was right there when I realized. Being security conscious, I didn't want to leave my briefcase in full view of potential thieves in the car park, so I brought it with me. The store had only opened 5 minutes before I got there, so it was very quiet. I walked in and started wandering, looking for the stationery section. I smiled at various employees during my travels, located the desired section, and chose a notebook. Because I'm a stationery nut, I also picked up some pens and highlighters, then headed for the registers. When I got there, I was approached by the customer service manager who asked if I was from their corporate headquarters. I said no. She said the entire store was in a panic because I'd walked in wearing the same uniform as their corporate level employees and carrying a briefcase. They thought I was there to conduct a surprise audit. I set her straight, and as I was being checked out, this was in the days before self-checkout was even thought of, I heard an announcement made over the PA that it was false alarm, everyone can relax. Now, if they sent in a dude dressed as corporate, told them they weren't from corporate, and actually had somebody from corporate dressed as a normal person? And our third story. How people can think it's okay to treat retail workers like this, I'll never know. I'm using a throwaway account to post this as I don't want people finding out my real identity through this. Anyway, this happened to me in December, and I found this sub the other day and knew it'd be a perfect story to post here. For background, I'm 19 years old, I'm a girl, and I'm less than 5 feet tall. I also have autism, so I'm very bad at talking to other people and socializing in general. So even friendly or mundane interactions are stressful for me. But nothing compares to this. I still live at home, and one day we'd run out of bread and milk, so my parents sent me off to walk half a mile in the snow to our local supermarket to get some, as my mom had to take care of my infant brother, and my dad was on night shifts that week, so he was still sleeping. So I put on a white hat and a navy blue winter coat. I only mention this as it looks absolutely nothing like the uniform worn by the employees at this particular chain of supermarkets, and I set off. About a half hour later, I was there. It was at this point that I got a text from my mom asking me if I could also pick up some washing liquid. I remembered the type of bread and milk we buy easily enough, but I don't do my own washing up. Bad habit, I know. So I didn't know what type to buy. I was looking over the different names and store brands before the encounter began. I was standing there holding a basket with items in it, clearly looking at other items and wearing something that didn't even remotely resemble the green jackets worn by the staff, when I felt a finger tapping me on the shoulder. I'll be me and the horrible woman will be HW, with some paraphrasing as I don't remember exactly what was said. HW, excuse me! I turned around to see who it was. I kind of expected it to be a familiar face who'd recognized me and decided to say hello, so when I saw a complete stranger looming over me, I didn't know what to do. This woman had at least 8 inches on me, had the well-recognized I want to speak to a manager haircut. You know the one, the pixie cut that's longer on one side and dyed blonde. She had sunglasses over her forehead despite the fact that it was dark outside and it was winter. I'd been caught off guard by her in the first place, and I already mentioned I'm about as useful as Superman in a house made of kryptonite at social situations, so I just kind of stuttered out HW. I need assistance. Where are the multi-packs of potato crisp brand? For some reason, I hadn't clicked that this woman had mistaken me for an employee. Perhaps the fact that mistaking me for an employee when I'm much more often mistaken for a preteen was so ludicrous that I didn't even consider the possibility. Me. I don't know. HW. You don't know? What do you mean you don't know? She said this in a very confrontational tone, like the way a parent would ask their kid, what were you thinking after they'd done something stupid or got in trouble? At this point, I was terrified, considered even talking to family members I don't see too often or real retail workers can make me stressed out, so my dumb brain decided the best cause of action was to just back away and leave this strange lady to her own devices. So I turned and started to scoot away, when suddenly I got pulled back hard by my hood, choking me and making me drop my shopping, which created a large clatter that disturbed the whole shop. It hurt a lot because she really did pull with a lot of force. The glass bottle of cola I was going to buy for myself shattered, spilling everywhere. HW pulled me back, then turned me around, grabbed me by both shoulders and screamed in my face, "Don't run away from me, you little brat! How dare you! I know the manager! I'll get you fired for this!" At this point, I started tearing up and sobbing, trying to pull away and run for my life, but this woman had an iron grip on me, and she wasn't letting go. Obviously, 2 of the employees, one of whom was a manager, we'll call him M, had come to see what the commotion was about and had turned into the aisle to see a woman violently holding me, who, might I remind you, apparently resembles a child and was screaming in my face, so they approached and asked what the problem was. The woman spun me around, turned to face these 2 nice people, and I could see M, a really tall guy who looked a little bit like Harold Ramis, was a manager. "What's going on over here?" HW. "This staff member has been extremely rude and unhelpful to me. I need help finding potato crisp brand." Manager. "That's not a staff member." It was at this point that the gears clicked and I realized I'd been mistaken for a staff member. And apparently it clicked for her too as she loosened her grip on me. I ran right past the manager and the other employee, not picking up my shopping or trying to get any more. I was just scared and confused and wanted to get out of there. So I ran right outside before stopping in the car park. I knew I couldn't just go home without the shopping, but this was the only supermarket around, so I knew I'd have to go back in, but I was so embarrassed, and I was crying. So I just stood in the car park, crying to myself for a bit until a security guard, who must have seen me run out and thought I might be stealing, caught up and asked what was going on. I didn't want to explain what had happened out of embarrassment and the fact that he was a total stranger, but as much as I wanted to just run away, I knew I couldn't. I wouldn't have gotten the shopping, and he'd probably think I stole something, so I explained to the best of my abilities that I'd been grabbed and hurt by a woman I didn't know. I eventually went back into the shop to quickly get the shopping and get home, but not before I saw HW storming out while shouting something about how they'd lost a customer while being followed by the manager and the other employee. I just wanted to get in and out, but I was stopped by the manager, who asked if I wanted to press charges or something along those lines. I wasn't really listening. I was just scared and wanted to get it over with. I said no, grabbed everything quickly, and paid at the self-service for about £3 worth of items with a £10 note. I left. I told my mother about it when I got home, and later my friends and significant other, but none of them could really relate to it or take it seriously, except for one of my friends who really does work in retail. In the future, I'll probably just wear a big flashing sign on my back saying, "Not an employee," because I don't know how I can make it any more obvious. I hope the manager banned her from the store. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.